Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Home Study. This is a podcast for parents, especially those who have children through adoption or foster care or are thinking about foster care or adoption. So, we are here to help you navigate the world beyond paperwork and placement. All right, everyone, this is a brand new episode, an interview episode, which most of you love. And we are here with Beth Michiemo. Welcome, Beth. We're
Applause,
so happy to
applause.
have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So Beth and I go way back, like a lot. I should have counted up the years before I just said that, but let's see,
We met,
17 years?
yeah, almost half our life.
Wow. Yeah, like 16, 17 years. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yes, we met a long time ago in college age, when we were college age, and we did an internship together, and yeah, we have been besties ever since.
Hmm.
So, for you guys listening, Beth is a foster mom, and she is also just one of those girls that's like everybody's best friend. Like,
Yep.
I met Beth maybe like 6 years ago or something like that. Gosh, that long. Anyway, maybe longer
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, no, it's been longer than that.
Yeah.
And she's just the type of girl that, like, as soon as she meets you, she's like, "Hey, here's some lemonade. Here's a sourdough loaf of bread. Like, I'm your best friend. Do you need babysitting? What do you need? Here I am." And so she's super fun to be around, and we're really excited to talk about just foster care and her role in that and what motivated her to do that today. I know we talk about adoption all the time, and sometimes foster care ends in adoption, but not always. And so we are gonna, yeah, just chat with Beth about that today. So welcome, welcome.
Yeah. Why don't you kick us off, Beth, with just telling us about you and your family? Just give us kind of a fly overview.
Yeah. So my husband, Tim, and I have been married for over 10 years, I guess almost 11. And we met at the same internship that I met Abby and her husband at. And we have 5 children. We have uh, 3 that are biological, 1 adopted, and 1 is we've just moved into the adoption process through foster care. We live in Louisville, Kentucky. You know, my husband works and I stay home and homeschool and do uh, home's just kind of my home base. I do everything here and cook and clean and do all the stuff. And I've been a photographer for 10 years, but I just retired. And so now I just am a photographer for my friends.
We still get friends, family and friends benefits.
Yes,
Right?
yes, 100%. And it's fun for me because it's something that I love.
Yeah.
And so I love to be able to do it.
Well, and you're just like everyday photos are beautiful. Like your regular like stories on Instagram. I'm like, only a photographer could do this. I
I
take
know.
picture of my food and it looks like gross food. Like you take picture of food, it looks like it's in a magazine. I'm like, okay.
I
My
just
peanut
It's
butter and
true.
jelly sandwich does not look that good.
I'm like, you know, there our table, there's 7 of us around the table. They're all trending. I'm like, don't touch anything. I need to take a picture. They're like,
So great.
I know.
Beth, tell us like the age range of your kids too. So for those listening, they kind of know as we're talking about your story and your kids where they're at.
My oldest is 9. And so we have 9, and then we have 6. 5 months after him is the next one is 5 still, but they are overlap for over half the year. And then we have a 3-year-old, and then almost 2-year-old.
That's so crazy. I can't believe Eden
Okay.
is 9.
I know she's
Right?
acting 9,
Wow.
acting grown.
She's acting nut. Tell us too, like which ones are biological and which ones are through foster care or adopted.
Yes. So our first child is biological. We had her, and then 3.5 years later, nearly 4 years later, we got our son through foster care while I was expecting our second child. So we accepted a placement, and they were still calling through family. So it was just as likely that it would be temporary, but they said it was a boy, and we already knew we were having a girl. So we were like, yes, we would love to care for a little boy. And he ended up getting to stay and be adopted. And then our Then we have 2 biological girls, and then our youngest is a girl also, and currently still in care.
Yeah, I had to think about that a minute.
I know. I was
wait,
like,
which
you might
ones are
need
we
a
talking about?
diagram, but yes,
Lots
we're
of kids,
following.
adopted, biological, foster care.
Okay, we got
There
you.
we go.
We got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it is less likely. Normally, I don't meet a lot of families that have so many biological kids and they're mixed in with their foster children.
Yeah, I don't either. It's usually like either at the front end or at the tail end.
Yeah, there's
but not
probably
so
some
much in the
wisdom
mix.
to that, maybe.
I mean, I remember when Ben came to your home and you were pregnant and then you had Magnolia, so that's the 6 and 5-year-old currently. You were like, it would be easier if I just had twins because they're 5 months apart. Like, if you think about 5 months, like over the long span of life, it's like not a big deal, whatever. But when you think of 5 months from like 0 months to 5
Yeah.
months, holy moly, like that is, you just moved out of like one stage and you're transitioning and then you have the other. Like that's really wild. So yeah, maybe there's some
Well, and
wisdom in
like
some of that, but you did
I'm
it.
thinking like
Yeah.
developmentally, like one kid's crawling and the other's learning to like sit up. And
Yeah.
that's so hard because like if they're twins, they're both learning to sit them up. You hold them both up. We're good. They're
Yes.
crawling. You both, now you're child locking, but now you're like chasing one who's crawling. Oh, don't fall over backwards to the
Yes.
one that's sitting.
Yes, and then you have to find an occupational therapist in the area to help you because the second one didn't get as much attention as the other one.
I wonder who that one could be.
I don't know, but I have a great friend and she was so helpful. We're so thankful for Lora in this house.
Yes, definitely. Oh man.
Well,
it was wild. I mean, Ben was very active and very, we were not sleeping and trying to get used to the idea of foster care. And then Magnolia was just the easiest going, lovely child. And so it was like there, and then also the world shut down for me to be able to do this, which helped a lot actually. That COVID happened because so Magnolia was born in December 2019. And so it was like right whenever it was going to be like really hard, it was like everything shut down and there was zero expectations outside my home. And I was like, actually, the timing really couldn't be better for that.
Yeah, you're going to pick a time to shut down the world.
Really fondly, actually. I loved it.
Yeah, that's not most people's stories.
I'm like, that happened for me.
Yeah. Wow. Oh gosh. Yeah. So Lora, you worked with Beth and her family at at certain points like throughout this journey. So maybe Beth, you could tell us a little bit about like what that kind of looked like just to give us a little bit of a view. And then I want to go back to like some of your motivations with foster care.
Yeah. So Magnolia wasn't walking and I could tell it was really hard and uncomfortable for her. And this is just crazy. So she was bow-legged and pigeon-toed, and they were like, you probably need to see an occupational therapist. So I called Lora. Well, I texted her. I was like, I need to come to your house. And she was like, okay. Seriously, within a week and a half, Magnolia was full-time walking. And so she was like, oh, this muscle's not activated. I'm like, I didn't even know you had to activate muscles. Like, I don't even know what you're saying, but everything that you do makes it work. So like, just go with it. So we worked with her for several months that's how we started like more professionally working together, was because Magnolia she like couldn't quite figure out how to like start walking, and it did seem like it was uncomfortable for her. So, and then she's walked me through stuff with Ben and like just different behaviors that came from just the whole process. There's so much that goes into foster care, into adoption, into like integration and like relearning everything after you're not in foster care anymore. And so we talked through stuff with Ben and his behaviors. And then we also I've talked with her about Allie and Allie's behavior specifically around visits and how that can just be really difficult for her. And I was like, how do I help her? Like, and so, yeah, we've kind of talked through both biological and foster kids. So, yeah.
That's great. That's a good
Just the
little
whole
plug.
gamut.
Yeah, there you go. There's a little plug for Connected Littles. Reach out to Laura.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say just she has a gift. For sure has a gift. And
You
everybody
guys,
doesn't have that gift.
you're very kind to say that, but your kids are also like easy to work with. So, and not everybody I could say that about. So
You had fruit snacks, so Magnolia would have literally done anything for you.
there you go. I just ate some gummies just now that I'm hiding from my kids.
Yeah. Sweet Magnolia. She's the best.
Why don't you walk us back the very beginning? So I'm trying to think like I don't even really know the story behind like what made you want to pursue foster care or and then like yeah, there's a lot to that. So let's just kind of start there. Like why foster care?
Yeah, I mean, I always was gonna adopt. That was and I the one of the episodes when y'all were talking about kind of like the savior complex and all of that, I was like, was that what it was? I was like, do I need to like reevaluate some stuff? And I've thought that before, but so this is actually where it stems from is that I didn't know if I wanted to get married, but I knew I wanted to be a mom. So I was like, I could just have a bunch of kids and like, who needs a man type thing is really what my complex, which was a different issue. I always assumed it would actually be international. I always thought I would adopt kids from all over the world. And so even when Tim and I were dating, I said, like, if this is not even an option for you, it's not going to work.
Hey friends, if you've been enjoying Beyond the Home Study and want to help us keep these real, honest conversations going, we've got 2 simple ways you can support the show. First, you can subscribe to or follow the show and give us a 5-star review wherever you listen. This helps more parents just like you find our show. Second, we just set up a Buy Me a Coffee page. It's a way to donate to our show and just a small way to say, hey, this matters. So if you would like to support the show, you can head to buymeacoffee.com/Beyond the Home Study, or simply click the link in our show notes. And please know that we're incredibly grateful.
Not to say that I don't know what the Lord's going to do in our lives, that we may not ever end up doing this, but like if it is like off the table, because it was with some people, like definitely not an option. I was like, it just is not going to work because this is just something that whenever I was probably like 12 or 13, I told my mom I wanted to have like a foster home camp where the kids could work there and we could live like it was like a summer camp mixed with like all of these kids and I could just like love them and they would just be there with me. And so like I don't know where that came from genuinely, but it just was always an option in my head. And so I guess as I got older and went on mission trips and went overseas and even like saw what kind of these lives that kids had come from and then I would come home and realize like there's all these kids that need homes like right here and the Lord just put a burden on my heart for that, Tim and I both. So we after Eden was born, whenever we were like we're not going to do foster care in Texas because we knew we were going to move to Louisville. So as soon as we moved here, like within 6 months to a year, we had started the process to become foster parents, because our church. We also just had a really good community of foster and adoptive parents through our church, so it also just seemed a lot more doable. Because I was like, okay, if I have questions or this is hard, like there's people that I already know that have gone through this, and we can ask questions, and so yeah, it was more of just like, this is something that the Lord has put on our heart and we don't know exactly why or what that looks like, but we're willing. We like, it's like that, like for us. And once again, even from that podcast, y'all were talking about how everybody's not called to do this. And that is like 1,000,000% true. That like for us, it was like, we have a home, kids need a home. It was just like for us it was almost that simple where it was like kids need a family, we have one, like we love that. And it was a way because I also really felt burdened and still do feel really burdened for parents in those situations and even to come alongside families and parents. And that was another area that I couldn't do if I did like international adoption. There wasn't ever an option to come alongside in the same way. So I was like, who knows what the Lord has for us, but I also really just wanted to like serve our community in a way that was a little bit unique to the gifts and the things that the Lord had kind of laid on my heart.
I think right there, that's something that people don't take into like consideration, like what you just said, like using the gifts that God has given me. Like that looks so different for so many people,
So yeah,
even the same gifts. But that's such a unique part of like your calling to do foster care or to not and support in another way is listening to those gifts. And, you mentioned like you as a child wanting to have this like foster camp. And like that doesn't surprise me at all. Like knowing you, knowing your personality, I'm like, oh, yeah, obviously, like you're very nurturing. Like that's totally your personality. And so, like, it makes sense um, yeah, so I just think that's a really that statement is really helpful.
yeah, I think that too. Like one of the things that I said whenever we adopted our son, I wrote a letter to him, but in that letter I had like words for our community, and the biggest thing was like that I always play even now in the trenches still in foster care is like we can't say yes unless our community says yes to us. And so like it takes like if everybody was doing foster care, while that would be great, but we would all need help. And so like it's emotionally and physically and a spiritual, like it's everything exhausting. I mean, it is like riding a roller coaster for a very extended amount of time with like people's lives on the line. And so it is like it's a lot. But I think that that's a big thing is that like it's not so much like even the question of like, are you called to adopt? Or are you called to foster care? It's just more like, how are you called to be involved in this? Not like you don't have, like, this may not be what the Lord has put on your heart, but I can tell you that you can probably cook dinner. Like, you could probably babysit. You could like, even like Abby and them getting respite, they did respite for people and things like that, where it's like, there's so many ways, or even like, you can never underestimate the power of prayer and the gift that the Lord has given for people to do that. And so I feel like there is like, it's not so much like especially if you are a part of the church, not everybody is, but if you're in the church, it's like, it's not so much like if this is what you are supposed to do, but it's like, how are you supposed to do it? Because we all have a role to play. Um, and everybody can't be on the front lines, and in most situations I wouldn't be want to be like, in most situations I don't want to be the frontline person. But this was just one of the ones that the Lord was like, this is what you're gonna do. So here I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, we could talk for a long time probably about all of the different people who have stepped in and provided things and all of, just so much. But tell us a little bit about like some of those key things. So like someone who's listening to this who is not going to ever have a foster child in their home. Like what are some of those things they can do? Make a meal, like give us like real practical, like literally drop something at your door. Like what are those things?
I might cry, but
That's okay.
uh, whew, um, yeah, I think I'm just gonna cry because it's Abby, but she she celebrated our son like I had given birth to him. Like the day he came home, she was there with clothes and with stuff, like new things. Not, like it was just like, oh, this is like my best friend had a baby and I'm going to like bring stuff, and even like we had accepted a placement that was in the hospital, and so we were just with him for 2 days in the hospital, and then family came forward, which is such a gift. And Abby was there with food because who wants to eat hospital food? And that wasn't even an option for me. So I was just going to be there. And so, I think that our community, like, they set up meal trains for us, just like we had given birth, like it's the same. I think it's treating it, and this is so hard because often we think only in the terms of like only it's only as like physically demanding if you gave birth, And at the end of the day, maybe it wasn't as physically demanding on me to welcome a child into my home, but I can tell you emotionally and spiritually, it was way more difficult than bringing a biological child into the world. Like, like the weight was just as heavy for different reasons.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest thing, was people that celebrated and prayed and involved themselves just like it was this other situation. Even like, Lora, you had a baby shower when you were like preparing to open your home. And I was just like, oh, I love that so much. Like that, like, like that those things happened. And so, yeah, I think that that's probably like one of the biggest things that always stands out to me is there are people that just celebrated us like, and it's not so much that like that's my need. That's what that kid deserves. That kid deserves to be celebrated like their life matters and they just came into the world and they need a new onesie. Like it's just that like like a lot of times with foster care, it's not like that. Like when they're born, there's a separation and hard things. Like it's hard to be separated from your biological mother at birth. Like that is hard. And it takes extra from the parent that receives that child. It takes extra of everything that you have. And so I think that that's the big thing, is like these kids deserve a community and a family that is like, I'm going to love you just like you're my own for as long as you're in this house. And like the second you come into this house, you're one of my kids. And that is how it's going to. And so I think that that's probably the biggest thing for me that stands out.
Yeah, and like I
So
imagine that even, if you have received gifts and received different things and this child is in your care for just a matter of a couple weeks, like look at all these things that you can then send along with them wherever they're going next, whatever that might look like. Like it's a worthwhile investment for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one other thing that always sticks out. So there's a ministry here, ministry. I don't even know if it is a ministry. Hope's Closet in Kentuckiana, and everything is donated. And foster adoptive parents can come. Foster and adoptive parents, kinship, family, like they come and shop completely for free for like literally everything. And
so many things.
and I tell families, sometimes families are like, oh, we don't need to use that. Like we have these things. And I said, it's not really so much that you couldn't get those things yourself. It's that you are helped by being there. Like I walked out of that place with like pack and plays and strollers and all these clothes. And I knew in that moment that there was a whole community of people that I don't even know that were supporting me to do this. And it just makes you cry because you're just like, you feel alone a lot of days because you're like, nobody understands like what this feels like. And I can't like say exactly how this feels, but you feel helped in those like small things. So small things that are giant. So yeah.
Yeah, we've also used Hope's Closet when we had, I guess it was our second placement, and it's crazy. Like they're so generous, and you're like, well, I just needed like a couple t-shirts,
Yeah.
and they're like, nope, we're
20.
loading you up. Yeah, they're like, you get 20 of this, you get 20 of that, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And it was nice because it was things I hadn't even thought of, and it really did open up opportunities. So like if the kids, we like swimming, I didn't think like, oh, you need a bathing suit, but they did.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah,
you need a bathing
exactly.
suit.
Yeah.
You need a winter coat. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay.
Yeah. And so I think it's those things that make you feel helped, feel less alone, and feel like, yeah, just like there's a whole community of people that aren't like, these are people. So it's like even donating, like it's not even like where you donate in some areas serves foster and adoptive families. So I tell people all the time, they're like, I don't know how to do things. I'm like, well, if you have stuff to donate it over here because it would be a blessing, especially like, certain items that I'm like, these like beds are always needed all day. And so,
Yeah.
so I think things like that too, that it's like, these are all ways that we can be involved and serve those that are doing this.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's a place here locally that they're starting up a thrift store that is very similar to that, but it will be like, low cost to go in and to purchase things, and it all benefits this expectant mom's home. And so, just even things like that, like wherever if you're not in one of our areas, if you have baby clothes or like gently used, pack and plays or car seats or whatever it might be. Or if you love to shop or if you love to garage sale or whatever it is, like go find those things, round them up and find a place that you can donate them that will benefit foster and adoptive parents and kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool.
So let's go back just a minute. You knew you wanted to do foster care, and you already had Eden, your biological child, and then you've opened up your home. How did it feel having first had a biological child and then having a foster child in your home, knowing that you've already said as soon as you come in your home, you're my child, but also they're in
Mhm.
foster care and they're not?
Yeah. Yes.
So talk a little bit about how that felt.
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to little 2-year-old Eden and being like, okay, even so, like that time at the hospital, she came with me to the hospital and was cuddling this little baby that looked exactly like her as a baby. And we just fell in love with this baby in the 2 days that we were just in the hospital. And when they told us that family was coming for, like family had come forward, like Eden was sad. And I was so sad and it was so hard. And so I was like, and I just told her, so like, as a little 2-year-old, I just said, there is only so many opportunities we get to love people like that, to love people like they are a part of your family. And we always want to be open to that, even if that means that we have to deal with loss or with hard things. And I said, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow with our kids. And I just live with that reality a little bit more closely than some people do. And that's helped me to love my kids so much, like to like cherish them more, because that reality always smacks me in the face, when you've got like hearings and workers and stuff, and you're like, oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, just little reminders that, yeah. And so I think that like Eden, I feel like in some ways she had to grow up a little quicker because of this. Actually, all of our kids have had to grow up kind of quickly because this is the route we've chosen.
Well, okay, so tell us a little bit about how it felt for, like, you've talked about how it was for Eden, but I am curious how it felt for you. Like, how did that feel for you parenting wise?
Yeah, it was, I felt like, so that's one of the reasons we chose to do newborns, because we were parenting Eden at 3. If we would have done like a 2-year-old that was being parented different or had like even different like stipulations on things, we wanted it to feel as natural as it could for her, like her age and any behaviors that would have come into the house. Like we wanted it to feel as natural to kind of protect her processing and her like easing into it. Um, and so, yeah, I think for me, it felt like you just feel a little bit more like aware that you want to protect almost the way like your child views the world, but you also are like inviting the brokenness into your home whenever your home's not broken. Like you have this safe, loving, nurturing environment, and then you're like, let's shake things up a little bit and like just bring the brokenness into the house in the form of the most innocent thing that you can think of. And that is a huge responsibility on a parent to process like how you're going to protect both children and their stories and be sensitive, in some ways like overly sensitive to this child. I mean, Ben was, he's like waking up in the night, like he has all these different things that if it was Eden, I would have been like, as a baby, I would have been like, you need to be fine. You need to be fine and you need to cry this out for a little bit. With Ben, it was like, definitely never. I
Oh,
was like,
no.
he needs nurturing. He needs closeness. He needs to be held all day. He needs he needs something totally different than what she needs. And it's just, and, Eden's like, like, she'll be like, well, like, what about this? And I'm like, he came from something different than you came from. And we have to be sensitive to that. And you're going to learn to be sensitive over time to the fact that he had a different start than you.
Yeah.
And we want to honor that. And we want to nurture that the way it needs to be nurtured, which is different than you need to be nurtured, which is hard, but it's also sometimes good for kids to know, like, life is not always fair. And like, at the end of the day, life is not fair. And some kids are born into a not fair situation. And so, yeah, it may not feel fair to my biological kids at some points, but like, it was not fair that they were in this situation. And so, you kind of are balancing these things and you're explaining these things at kid level where you're like, we have to give this child what they need and we have to give you what you need. And that's different. And I'm sorry if that's hard right now. It's been the hardest to walk through this with Allie and Ben, because man, it's so hard. He's processed everything he didn't know he needed to process. We've processed so many things because he's just like, oh, she has visits. Did I have visits? Because he doesn't remember that. And then we talked through, like, buddy, you didn't. Like, it was a different situation. And like, you were with us. And like, this is what this looks like. And you are loved and you're safe. And you've always had a home with us. Even before you came to us, we wanted you. And so we've had to walk through a lot more, like, even with the trials and everything, he's had more questions. And so to parent that has been hard because you never want to lead a child into deep waters that they're not ready to process. But you want to also be honest with them about where they came from, who they are, and the things that you love about them and their story. Yeah, it's weird. Parenting has, I feel like there's been a lot.
Yeah, I think a really interesting dynamic that I've seen you walk through with your family that there's probably a lot of other families who have it is you have your now adopted son who isn't necessarily asking questions like relating himself to his siblings who are your biological children. Like I mean, maybe he's asked some of those questions like we've talked about before, like, was I ever in your belly? Or do you have any of my ultrasound picture? Those things. But he's actually now seeing like another child in your home who like his sibling who's coming in through foster care who now he's comparing those situations with one another, and that just adds like a whole other level of complexity because we talk a lot about like age appropriate transparency and honesty and how that is the best for the child, and it's best for you too, like to know you don't have to answer every single question in like its most full sense, but you have to be honest. Like that's a calling that you have as a parent.
It's so sweet. I mean, I feel like Ben and our relationship has grown so much. And that's so, a lot of times people ask because it is a little like our ages and how the timeline of this. I genuinely would not have planned this ever. But it was, whenever you walk through the process and then you're like, okay, so we had Naya, which is our fourth child, and you have 1 year that you can be on hold. And then they're like, okay, do you want to close your home or do you want to open your home? And we were like, gosh, like it just seems so soon to open our home because, we have these 3 kids in like 3 years, basically. And so we're like, where are we at? But then we also were like, okay, if there's a possibility, even a possibility that our son can learn and see that this is because he's older now. Like, if he can learn and see that this is a choice that we make because we love these children, and that can help him one day understand more clearly, we should do this hard thing. Like, we should let him see this. And also, we were like, if we were to adopt through foster care again, that would be ideal because one day when there's a hard day, I would love for him to just be able to go down the hall and knock on the door and say, like, is this hard for you? Like, or is this like, like, is this, today I feel like I don't fit in here. And so I think that I wanted to give him the opportunity to have that housed in our home instead of it needing to be outsourced from our home.
So how old was Okay, so hold on. I know this. I'm recapping for the audience. We've got Eden and Magnolia Naya.
Yes.
How old was Naya when you
19.
accepted? Okay.
Yeah. And Naya was not thrilled. She unsubscribed. She did not. She wanted to be the youngest child. I think she still kind of does. She
She
likes
did
Allie.
she didn't have the couple more years that Eden had before
Yeah.
Ben came,
Yeah.
and she's already number 4 in the lineup,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
she's already craving a lot
Yeah.
more
A lot.
attention.
Yeah.
Right.
Her and Allie are like best friends now, though, which is so sweet.
So
But
sweet.
yeah, she was still so little. And I think that was hard too, because we were like, she's so little. And it was, I mean, we soaked up every second of Naya's babyhood because with Ben and Magnolia, it was so crazy. We didn't feel like we got to like, like fully like be like all the things. And so I felt like with Naya, we were like, we love this. And we're going to like, it was sweet. But yeah, it was wild.
So is your home closed now or are you open?
So, I mean, I guess our home would technically be on hold, but we will be closing after this. We need a season, especially our case with our youngest we've had the joy to be more involved with her biological family, and we want to do that well. We want to transition well to like know them and be involved with them and care for them well, and that is adding a whole group of people. So we were like, I just feel like that would be a lot. So yeah, we're on hold until her case is finalized, and then we'll be closed for the first time in over almost 7 years.
Oh man. Well, this has been so good. I would love for you, Beth, to just like think through if there's anything that you would want to share with a family. You're kind of like speaking to two different groups, probably. Like you've got the group of people who maybe have never really thought about foster care. Maybe they came to this podcast because they're in an adoption process or thinking about that. Like speak to that group of like encouraging them if this is what is meant for their life, that they would pursue foster care. And then also those who have this idea of like, maybe my home should be closed. Like you kind of spoke to that a little bit, but like maybe my home should be closed and like kind of processing that. So you can kind of break up your words of encouragement at the end to like those two groups.
Yeah, I was thinking as I was like preparing to talk with y'all, I was like, it's so funny because I remember with Abby, whenever she was wanting to grow her family, and we were talking about foster care, and I was like, Um, I think that you will run away to Mexico if they give you a baby and they try to take away. This like, but
Which is
also that,
why we went to our first foster care meeting together.
yeah,
Beth
yeah,
and Tim and Josh and I, and then we were like, sayonara, this is not for us. And Beth and Tim were like, can you watch Eden next week so we can go to this training? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. That's what we're doing.
yes. And then Laura was the opposite of like, she was in a similar season, but that is how she pursued growing her family. So I just think that's so sweet that y'all have both of those perspectives to offer, because um it's hard to those are the hardest situations to decide if foster care would be right for your family, is if in that like waiting season of wanting to grow your family. I think that's the hardest time to decide what route to go. If you're in that camp, my encouragement to you would just be, you might feel pulled towards against the grain, and even in the midst of the season of wanting to grow your family, you still might feel that pull towards the hard thing. And it's okay if foster care is that hard thing and it's scary and you want to go that direction. It's amazing how the Lord determines your steps ultimately. And so I would say, like, to anybody that was like considering foster care, my main encouragement would be just to consider it. Like, you don't have to land on an answer in the next year, but I do think that more people should consider it than not. If you have a healthy, safe, loving home, just put it on the table as an option and consider it. And then to people with the home, and like maybe you are a foster parent and you're like, how do you know if you have enough kids? Oh, like, like how many is too many? How many is enough? My dad had 14 in his family. Like, I mean, they made it work with 2 bedrooms. So like, what could I do? And so I think that one of the biggest things is, can you love well the kids in your home? Can you know them well? And whenever you see yourself in 5 years and you're walking through the specific struggles of each of your kids, do you see yourself being able to like teach and train and come alongside and cherish and love and play and run and do all the things with those kids if you continue to walk this line of, because it is a limbo, it is a roller coaster. And like, so even the analogy of the roller coaster, whenever me and Tim decide to foster care, we put our whole family on the roller coaster, and it's a whole family commitment. And so I think that it's more just like weighing like what specific needs your kids have and what specific gifts your kids have, how helpful they are. There's so much that goes into that. So yeah, what I would say is like knowing yourself, knowing your kids really well, and realizing that it's not just you that's committing to this, it's your whole family.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Beth, and sharing your story. We're just so happy to hear about how your family's doing, and also just how this all affected you and your family, and just the ups and downs of the roller coaster of foster care. So thanks for sharing that with us. And if you are listening today and anything we have said today has made you laugh, cry, or feel seen, please share this with a friend. And we will see you guys again next week. Thanks for being here.